Welcome everybody to the Trika Mahasiddha Yoga Facebook group. This will be our first teaching on the group. We'd like to start it off with one of the most important teachings we can possibly receive in the tradition, something we should focus on all the time and eventually become: compassion. I'd like to start with a short quote from Abhinavagupta, who was one of the great Shaivist masters. Abhinavagupta said or wrote, "People, occupied as they are with their own affairs, normally do nothing for others. The activity of those in whom every stain of phenomenal existence has been destroyed and are identical with Bhairava, or your essence, right? Full of this essence, is intended only for the benefit of the world." It's a beautiful quote. And there the great master is telling us that when we are still full of ourselves, basically we're full of stain, right? But for the person who's gone through the process of spiritualizing along the path of Shaiva Yoga, whatever you're practicing, all the non-dual yoga traditions, meditation traditions, that eventually you become that compassion. And everything you do, your body, speech, and mind, all your thoughts, all your feelings, all your actions, represent intention for the welfare of others. And it's a beautiful teaching. Now, compassion is considered to be one of the fruits of the whole path. Is it too much for us to think that we can cultivate compassion right away when it's in, a non-dual fruit of full realization? No, actually. Even though in the 12 stages of the spiritual journey that we teach about in Trika Mahasiddha Yoga, stages 1 through 4 on the way to realization are about focusing on yourself, even though those are self-focused, we have to still begin to develop the roots of compassion, the foundation which will allow full compassion to come out later. The 5th stage, stage 5, is transitional, moving into another level of spiritual realization, where compassion becomes an extremely important part of the path, right? So we have to set up that foundation right away. And in stage 5, we have to actualize it. Because stage 5 is really about dismantling the self-image. And a part of that, natural sequelae of that, result of that, is compassion as well. So, in stages 1 to 4, if we're developing our spiritual path, and we're in stages 1 to 4, and we're having the intention to really change ourselves and really grow and get character change, which is really the key characteristic of realization. You can see that the person's character has actually changed. You know that you used to be, lustful, or lie a lot, or angry a lot, or just out of it a lot, and your character changes, right? If you were hyperactive, now you're quiescent, more calm, etc. So in 1 to 4 and 5, it's very important to cultivate the ultimate ideals, but accept where we are at the same time in the process. Having said that, though, we should see real character change as we go along. So in stages 1 to 4, the key thing to cultivate, to get compassion, to get foundation for compassion, is kind action, acting in a kind way. Now, in stages 1 to 4 and 5, we're going to forget to be kind all the time. It's just natural, We are born a little baby dependent on mama, and right away it's all about us, right? Our survival, our food, everything comes to us, and we're attempting to relate everything to ourselves. We're putting all the objects in our mouth and exploring our world. Well, that doesn't really change until spiritually we grow into stage 6 and 7, right? So 1 through 5 are still going to be really all about us. But there we're applying the effort of spiritual growth. There we're applying the effort towards character change. We know our limitations. We certainly know one of them is not being generous, not being kind, not being compassionate. Everybody pretty much has something to work with there. So in stages 1 to 4, think about kind actions. Don't worry about your thoughts. It's too hard to control your thoughts in stages 1 to 4. You do a little bit of that every day when you sit for meditation. You're aware of it during the day as well, but if you try to be really harsh on yourself in that way of controlling your thoughts and making these thoughts only compassionate, the path can be too hard, too difficult. You may experience it as too strenuous and want to give up, right? Too negative maybe even, or repressive. Same thing with feelings. They're going to come up. Feelings that aren't compassionate, aren't kind, right? Focus on the actions. Say to yourself, despite what I'm thinking, despite what I'm feeling, I'm going to act in a kind way. Don't say compassionate. It may be too much to be 100% non-dual love of compassion at this point. I'm going to focus on doing something kind in this situation. My mind is telling me she's mean, he's a jerk. My feelings are telling me they deserve to be slapped. But my action will be kind instead. I'll do something kind. Or I'll walk away, which may be kind as well, right? So they don't have to deal with our negative expression of anger, disdain, disgust, whatever it is, right? Lust, whatever, violence. So in 1 to 4, we act like this. Kind action, focus on kind action. Then we get to stage 5, and we start to think about service to others, because we have to transform now. In 5, we're dismantling our ego structure. Our ego structure, our ahankara, our self-image maker, is taking on more and more of that of being a yogin or yogini or yogi. More and more it's taking on this self-image of I am realizing my true nature, I'm in that process, and I am going to be a full being of wisdom and compassion. I'm on my way. I already see that character change coming, right? So in stage 5, you can go a little bit stronger with this practice, and you can act out of service to others. What is service to others in this way? It means I will benefit others whenever possible. I will think of others' benefit before myself. I'm taken care of already. That's how I think about it as a yogin. I'm taken care of. I'm fine. I'm healthy. I got air to breathe. I got water to drink. I got food to eat. What do you need? How can I help you? So think about kind action of serving and caring for others without return, without the thought of what am I going to get from this? Because that's seeking an advantage or stroking your ego or getting approval, whatever. Forget about that. In stage 5, if you think you're in stage 5 when you hear the view teachings, when you finally get there, whatever, think about service to others with nothing coming back in return. Another way to think about it is that you're caring for others like they're a family member, right? I heard a great story from Ram Dass one time about that. They were going to sell this big album of teachings that they had made, and they were going to price it like $100. And nobody could really afford it back then. It was like in the 70s. So he said, well, why don't we go cheaper? And the guy said, the guy who developed it said, well, we got to make money too. And Ram Dass said, would you sell it to your mother for this price? And he said, oh, no, of course not. I would sell it for the cost price. He said, because your mother's your family. Of course, my mother's my family. I wouldn't sell it for that. So Ram Dass said, well, everybody should be our family. And that's the attitude you want to have in 5. Everybody is your family. You love everybody. You care for everybody. From the most minute living being to the most exalted being. You care for them all from your heart as if they are family members, as if they are your own child, right? Because you put the benefit of another child ahead of your child. It's another way to look at it. So evoke a sense of compassion with that kind of an attitude at this point, that you're caring for all beings because they're all your family. Because the truth is, all beings really are your family. Then let's say you're in stage 6, and the shift happens here. Character change coming even deeper. Lots of compassion, lots of devotion, lots of surrender, lots of non-resistance. Ego structure is just barely hanging on the previous ego structure. The new self-image maker that is a yogin of compassion and wisdom is coming on really strong at this point. And in this way, we want to serve others before ourselves and as ourselves. So the orientation in 6 changes a little bit from family members outside ourselves to what can I do for you because your suffering really is my suffering. Right? I'm going to serve you before myself because I'm okay, I'm a yogin, taken care of. That's the idea, right? And also I don't want to dwell on my own problems and issues, it just makes them worse. So what can I do for you? How can you serve someone else before yourself and as yourself? So when you serve others as yourself, now you're really starting to touch that non-dual quality of compassion. It'll flicker in and out all through stage 6 as you practice this way and as you live this way and breathe this way. This is an important shift that occurs. Definitely by 6 you have wanting to perfect forbearance. Not really being very tolerant of others and forbearing everybody else's shortcomings and so forth. So you really want to get that down. This doesn't mean that someone can harm you or someone could be bad to you or, in a really bad way, physically endangering you or something. Of course, you still take care of yourself. You take care of your family. You would take care of others in the same way. You know what I'm talking about. This is different. This is when we have internal resistance, internal intolerance, and so forth. That should really be worked on in 6 so you can get rid of it completely. Because stage 6 is a big transformation, and your character must change to really accommodate and express this next big change into stage 7, which is pure non-dual love. There you're having real compassion for the first time as a steady state. Of course, compassion shows up in our lives all the way along, and non-dual reality shows up in spaciousness and in energy, which means in equanimity and also in a sense of oneness or non-dual love, oneness of love. But here in 7, it's becoming stable. In 1 through 6, it comes in and out. 6, it comes on a lot. 7, you're stabilized in it. So in 7, stage 7 of the path, your compassion will come out horizontally. It'll just be a movement of energy outward, encompassing your whole reality in a grounded way, not something you have to work on so much. Right? So this is how compassion comes out through our path, how we need to work on it a bit at each stage along the way. And like I said, compassion is non-dual love, the highest. So we shouldn't really lose patience with ourselves if we don't have the highest non-dual love. Pure detachment, pure non-attachment, which allows us to see others identical as ourselves. We're always going to take a little bit of advantage all the way up until stage 6, 7, right? We're always going to be a little bit self-concerned as our first impulse, let's say. But we can start to learn to change that impulse, and we do that progressively in 1 through 4. We actually go at it really strongly in stage 5, and in 6 it becomes a lot easier. You start seeing the sweetness, not the difficulty. You start seeing the sweetness of being one with everybody, of real compassion, making you feel one with everyone. It's also a little painful. You feel everybody, then you also feel everybody's pain. But the sweetness of the oneness that comes from it is really showing you that you're on the path towards the highest realization, and that every action, every motive is for the highest good of all, that you're going to relieve the suffering of everybody. And that's really the final practice, which takes us into the final fruit. Every action, body, speech, and mind, comes from the intention, the highest good for all, to relieve samsara, to relieve the suffering of others. And that's really what we live for as yogins on this path. It's a beautiful fruit. It's also the ground we walk on. It's not just where we're going as a goal. As we said, you work on it in each stage. It's the ground we walk on. And actually, an ultimate realization, the full realization of your essence as a realized Mahasiddha, will be the realization of compassion and wisdom. These two together. So, in this way, we're already invoking a deep fruit of the path. But like we said, it's not out there. The whole path is a path of love and compassion.